Hello everyone and welcome back to our third and final AFLW Fantasy Fanatics pre-season episode. I'm your host Bales and you can find me at BalesDT across all of the socials. We are only a few days away from the AFLW starting, so make sure you guys get your teams in. There's still a few days to go, still got plenty of time to prepare and get ready, but if you have got your team sorted, then obviously we are looking forward to the kickoff, which is on Friday, which we've got two games actually coming up. There's a 6:45 Adelaide time for me and then 8:45, which is a late game over in the West, but looking forward to it. But joining me is my co-host and fellow AFLW Fantasy Fanatic. It is Jaiden Mitch. Jaiden, mate, how are you? And looking forward to the upcoming season, mate?
Good, Bales. Yeah, very excited. Final preparations, I guess, going on. And yeah, that's what we're doing today. So yeah, I think we all need it a little bit because we've just finished off the men's and now we can purely focus on this and go for a Hilux, surprisingly.
Yeah, exactly. To be honest, I'm just looking for a hat. If I get a Hilux, then obviously I'd love it, but I just want a hat. It's too many times I've men's, women's, any fantasy get close and just don't get the chocolate. So hopefully I can get a hat and hopefully a few of you legends listening out there can get a hat as well. But joining us is a sort of new addition to the AFLW Fantasy Fanatics for the upcoming season. He probably won't be on every single podcast, but we'll definitely get him on a fair few times throughout the season. You'll know him from the Ball Boys and the 16th ranked coach in AFL Fantasy Classic in the men's comp, which is a great season. It is Mitch from the Ball Boys. Mate, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I like the sound of that 16th ranked coach. That's, still pretty fresh. So feeling good after a good season over there. But I tell you what, I'm not expecting a top 16 finish in the women's. I will just temper expectations. I'm still learning the game a little bit. I dipped my toe in the water last year, but I think last year I started to put a team together for the women's maybe 2 hours before kickoff and crammed my research into that time. This year, I've done a couple of weeks of solid research, which is mostly just listening to you guys and free kick and just putting in my own philosophies. But keen to talk about the women's and slightly different tactics, I think, this year, because it sounds like, from what I understand, there's a few little wrinkles in the competition.
Yes, exactly. And I'll be chatting about though, because we haven't really touched on that in either of the two preseason pods. So we'll touch on the double game weeks that obviously are here this season, sort of what our sort of current sort of plans are for them if it dictates any starting structures. But I think probably first of all, I think we should start off by me and everyone else got to look at mine and Jaiden's team last week. So I think it's only fitting, mate, that you jump on the first pod and maybe get a bit of a squiz at your team for the upcoming season as it currently stands. So I probably should have said this before we started recording, but I think you can share your screen and then the people watching on the video can have a look at it as well. And I'll be able to pop it up there. And then for the people listening, we'll talk through all the players anyway. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
We'll switch the ski. Okay, let's... How do I share this?
I probably should have said this before we started recording, but that's all right. People can get a bit of a laugh at it.
Working this out on the fly. Have you got me up here?
Yes, no, we got it. Beautiful. And we'll just pop that up on the screen for the people watching on the video. And for the people listening on the pod, we will be going through each individual player. So, Mitch, mate, do you want to take us through who your starting defenders are?
So starting defenders here, I think... From what I understand, these first two are pretty popular. Isla Sheeran and I'm sorry, first of all, in advance, I haven't said many of these names before, so I'm going to butcher a lot of them. So I've got Ruby Slasher sitting there, Sinead Goldrick sitting there, who I think is maybe one of my more unique players, judging off ownership. I've got Serene Watson and Kate Ludkins there at D5. And then I've got Dana Finn there on the bench. A few other rookies in the defensive line have sort of floated through. I think there's another Carlton rookie that has spent time there. And is it McDonald's from Geelong? Yep. Has also been someone that's floated in and out. Also liked the look of, is it Geordie Allen? One of the Allens?
Yep.
Geordie Allen, I think Collingwood player who after, I think she had like a 7, 8 or 9 mark game in the preseason in bad weather.
Yeah.
Sort of at times has been in my D2 and D3 spot, but that's how it's looking. I think fairly vanilla. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is there any shocking picks? I'm looking for feedback from you guys because, yeah, like I said, I'm a bit of a newbie to this format. So, what are your thoughts?
Oh, mate, I'm liking the defense. I think it's really good. I think there's definitely a few. Well, I'm looking there. You got 5 of the 6 there I've currently got in my side. There's only currently the one difference that we've got. Sinead Goldrick, Jaiden, was someone that we didn't really touch on in the first couple of episodes in the preseason, but looked pretty good for Melbourne playing in a bit more of a midfield role. At 600k, what are your thoughts on her as a bit of a mid-priced option in defense?
Yeah, at this time last week, we just heard the news that Olivia Purcell is going to be missing some time. So there are opportunities there in the Melbourne midfield. Goldrick, I think, played a little bit in there, not heaps, but I think she was there and thereabouts. So probably good enough in defence. She scored 94 points, courtesy of the article on AFL.com.au this week. So yeah, looks solid, and I think her ownership has spiked a bit from that. 6 tackles, 3 free kicks, 4. It's pretty handy. I reckon there might have been some holding the balls in there. So yeah, I like it. At 600k, you do have a bit of room to move. If it doesn't quite work out, you can go down or you can go up fairly easily. So I do like it as a mid-price option. Because you just have that safety of 3 trades to fix up if the role doesn't eventuate.
Yeah. Is she currently in your side?
Yeah, although my side currently is the one that I posted this week, which is the practice match hype team, and she's certainly in there. I think she was probably the first selected. So, yeah, my team is very I haven't fixed it yet, but she's there because, yeah, the hype is real.
Yeah, no, I agree. She's in my side. She's made her way in as well. So, no, Mitch, I like the defence, mate. And we'll move on to the midfield. And I see a name missing from the midfield at M1 that I'm very surprised. So, quickly go through the 6 you've got there, and then let us know about the player that you haven't got and why you haven't selected her.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've got Laura Gardner there at M1. I believe she was forward only last year, but moving to the midfield. I've got Charlie Rowbottom, who just quietly is my favourite player. She is an absolute beast. Just love the way she goes about it. She, just tackles like crazy, and was a player that I definitely loved watching last year as I was starting to get to know everyone. Mon Conti from my Richmond Tigers, also one of my favourite players to watch. So she just features in there because I just think that she's class. Maddie Prasparkas, who, again, I'm not sure 100%, but I think she's a little bit more on the lower, sort of 8%, bit more unique, but I think they've got an early-ish sort of double game week, and can just sort of see her, being 24 years old and sort of built into the season last year pretty nicely. Like the look of her. And then Sinead Goody is, she scored really well in the practice game at 300k. Just seems like too much value to leave off my field. So going 4 deep in terms of the premium. So a lot of my money is concentrated here. From what again, very small sample size of playing AFLW Fantasy, last year, is that the mids just by far score the most amount of points, especially compared to like defense. The defense, like the highest averaging player was 73. Whereas in the midfield, the player that you're referring to, Ebony Marinoff, 128, that's nearly double the scoring of the best defender. So I didn't want to go too shallow in this midfield because if you miss too many points in there, I think it's going to be hard to make up. But yeah, don't have Ebony Marinoff, which apparently is crazy. I think, was it Free Kick Liam posted something about who's fading who, and I said that I'm 99% sure I'm going to be fading Marinoff this year to start. And got a few comments about that. So what are your thoughts about fading the top averaging player, 69% owned?
Well, personally for me, taking the Crow's glasses off because I want this unbiased. I think she's just too valuable to not start. Averaging 128.5, and I don't see that slowing down whatsoever just because she fills all the stat lines, and she's going to be obviously great captain option week in, week out. She's going to be captain for the first at least 3 weeks. Obviously with double game weeks coming up, she might not be necessarily captain each week, but she definitely has got the ceiling of a player that could almost match a lot of players that got 2 2 games in 1 week. But Jaiden, I want to sort of go to you as a stats man and obviously delving into the numbers. So with Ebony Marinoff, do you think is it more harmful not to start with her than starting her? Do you think that Mitch has to find a way to put her in his side, or do you think there is a case to be made that you could potentially divert away and go for some other players? Because midfielders, there's a lot of good options.
I mean, ever since seeing that that reply from Mitch, I've kind of like been thinking about it a lot. I almost replied to you with like a picture of the Hilux, just like driving into your driveway, because you got to do these types of things. I guess there's probably a few things that I've thought about a bit. So the reason why I have her is for a captain option, but you're only going to get a captain option for the first 3 weeks, because after that you're going to need, you only will ever captain a player in a double round. So you won't actually captain her in round 4, round 5, round 6. Only in round 7 is when you need her to be captain. That's the thing that I kept coming back to in my head.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
Yeah. I did have 4 mids like that, and Marinoff was one of them, but it meant I didn't have Kate Hall. So, it is something that I didn't really love. It's something to consider. I think in terms of what we've seen in the past and why people are so keen to pick Marinoff again is she was still the top averaging player in previous years when the game was shorter. So we were kind of looking for a player that we could rely on even when the quarters got longer, because she's such a good player and scores in so many different ways. We could trust her as the quarters got a little bit longer, and she did that. I think maybe a 20-point average increase. I'm not sure if that's exactly right, but yeah. So I think with the game being the same this year, there's probably a bit of value that could be gained from that higher price point.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you didn't start a Marinoff, would that be something where you'd maybe consider? I know obviously with the AFLW pricing, players could just shoot up so quickly, but if you're not starting Marinoff, could that be a scenario where you maybe start a red dot on your bench potentially? And then if you've got 4 mids, you get, at least if you don't have Marinoff, you get 2 cracks at a captain each week, right? So is that something that coaches could consider if they don't have Marinoff, or do you think it's too vital to have all these like green dots and players making cash?
Well, this is something that, again, will be part of me figuring out this year, is the value of that cash generation, right? Like, if you think about a 10-week season, comparing that, and this is where I'm trying to translate my philosophies from the men's to the women's, and it's a totally different game, I get that. But if you think of a 10-week stretch in the men's fantasy, like, cash is less important over that stretch, because you've only got so much time to convert that cash into points. And it just makes those trades so pivotal to make sure that you convert that into scoring. So having that red dot, that loop action, if it gets you more scoring because you're able to loop and have 2 cracks at those captaincies, I think there's definitely some viability in it. Now, depending on who's the most valuable cash cow and those kind of things, like if maybe the Rucks are not going to be the best cash generators, you're not sacrificing that much. But if there's a lot of like must have, they're going to generate hundreds of thousands of cash, it's maybe not worth it. So I guess it depends on, what your thoughts are on the crop of rookies and those cash cows. So
that's the position I've looked at potentially. The Rucks is if I was going to go a red dot strategy to play a bit of a loop game, that would be in the Rucks. Jaiden, firstly, is that something you've actually considered all in the preseason with the red dot? And if so, it would be in the Rucks, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it has to be in the Ruck, because I don't think so. There was probably 2 options that we had there. Lily Pearce at Geelong looks like potentially, based on the practice game alone, probably similar to Erin Hall last year, where it was just like, it's not like the premium rucks that will get the ball everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, they're fairly reliant on being the ruck, and that's it, which is completely fine for a first-year ruck. And it's going to be hard to see a Schultz type breakout So then the other option is O'Dowd, I think.
Eilish O'Dowd, yeah.
Yeah, so, and she didn't score massive either. And the worry there is, unlike Geelong, they still have other options in the ruck. So Fleur Davis is there. If she just gets dropped, I don't know, maybe 3 rounds in, then you haven't really earned that much cash. And just on the cash system, like, it is a 10-week year, and they've tried to accelerate that for that reason. So, yeah, it is difficult because Marinoff, like, the break even is 136 based on what we kind of saw last year. So even though she's priced at 128, just based on the scoring output we saw last year in round 1 and the number of rookies, I've projected that to be around 136 break even. So, yeah, when I saw that, I was a little bit shocked.
Yeah, I mean, so if you compare like a play, like what she's 1.66 mil, like that's crazy. I know she's good, and I know that it's like scary to go against these types of players where, you know, they're 70% owned, they're the best player or scorer of all time, but you're paying for it. It's not like you're getting them at the same price as these other guys. So, and it's not like I'm going against Marinoff with bag of chips. Like, I've got Laura Gardner, I've got Rowbottom, I've got Conti, like I've got captain options there. They're not chump change, right? And if Marinoff drops 100, that's the equivalent of someone like a Kate Hoare dropping 60. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's relative to their price. Like 100 for someone who's priced at 130 is bad. Like that's a poor result. And I don't think you'd be surprised if she just goes a few hundreds at the start of the year. Like, it doesn't take much for that scoring to come down, especially like if a guy in the men's comp averaged 130, it'd be surprising for them to back it up the next year. But in a game where there's reduced time, like literally just the less time in each quarter, that to me, and I don't know if, you know, the stats man Jaiden can back me up here, but that just reduces the likelihood of that happening again, because you just need so many things to fall your way in that condensed quarter for it to happen. So I'm betting against the fact that she's going to maintain or improve her score, and that I can find some captain options to at least go semi-close to what she does. And like you said before, I only have to do it for 3 weeks, and then I'm going into those double game weeks. So I'm thinking, you know, a couple of good options early on, like Rowbottom, Gardner can hopefully get me close.
Yeah, if there was a year you're going to go against someone that's highly priced, it is this year, because you got the double game weeks, as you said, starting in round 4. So I guess the reason I'm probably more the fact that I'll start with her because I'm a bit worried I won't be able to afford her at any point, because we saw last year, like I'm looking at her scores from here, she only had 3 scores out of the 10 games last year that were under 120. So, and that was a 112 in round 1. A 91 again in round 5 against Gold Coast, where she got Lucy single tag, and then in the final round against West Coast when she got a 103. So every other game was massive, and she's shown that she can score in the tough games, like Brisbane 138, North Melbourne 133, and then she showed the ceiling against an easier opposition in GWS, where she went 174. So, but it'll be interesting to see sort of what comes out of that. But no, very, very good discussion. I did like that. So at the moment, Mitch does not have Ebony Marinoff. I wonder if I'll be able to talk him into starting it. But there we go. But it's also got you've also got Mattea Breed as well there on the bench as your M6 there as well. But moving
something. So yeah, pretty keen to lock her in.
Moving into the rucks, mate. You've gone for one of the premium rucks there.
Yeah, I've got Edmonds in here. This is really. Again, listening to the Free Kick guys, I'll trust their fixture analysis to say that she's got a pretty good run at the start of the year. And it's also, I wanted someone in the round 4 double round team. So I wanted someone, I don't have Charlie Thomas, who'd be the other player, who's like a premium option from the Eagles, who also plays 2 games that week. So Collingwood, West Coast, Brisbane, and the Bulldogs play that first double round. So I wanted to have someone there. I was looking at Ali Anderson, but she didn't play the preseason game, so didn't want to go there. So they kind of left me with Edmonds as a potential one of my first double round players to at least get me off to a start. And then after that, she can maybe become someone else if there's someone else popping, but wanted to sort of just start her and get it off to a good start to the season that way.
Yep, beautiful. No, I love it. And then moving into the forward line there as well. So you want to scroll down a tiny bit for the people watching on the video, but who have you got sitting in your forward line there?
So I've got Bonnie Too Good, as the name suggests. I'm not going to go against someone who's literally too good for the game. And then Kate Hoare. This F3 spot has been the spot that's probably changed the most, probably between this spot here and maybe D3 and maybe M1 are probably the spots that have changed the most for me, as well as just the benches and things like that. So at the moment, I've got Darcy, is it Vescio?
Yeah, Vescio. Yep.
Right? Vescio. So I've got her sitting there right now. From what I've heard, she's playing or moving onto a wing, I think I've heard. But cheapish. But it's from what I understand, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. I had the Brisbane player. What was her name? Hodder. Yeah, I had Hodder in there for a bit, but opted to go, I think, a rookie up to a Watson instead, and then went down to Vescio to facilitate that. So that's probably one of the ones that's least secure in my position in my team at the moment. And then a couple of rookies, which I've had pretty good raps on. And again, sorry for the butchering the name, Ruby Chipotti and Michaela Pauga, who was sitting there.
Yeah, Pauga, yeah.
Yeah, and Yasmin Dersma. I'm just going off the last name there, really. Dersma seems like a pretty good footy name. And then utility, I've got Piper Window sitting there. So all players that I've just sort of seen talk about. I don't know too much about the rookies. So you guys can let me know if you feel like I'm missing someone obvious in terms of those cash cows, or what are your thoughts on the forward line there?
Oh, mate, for someone that said that he's want to get our opinion stuff, I'm liking the team. Obviously, I'm taking my bias away from Everty Marinoff, but the rest of the team's good. I like the rest of the players there as well. But obviously, Jaiden, talking about Darcy Vescio, what are your thoughts as an option there? Because we didn't quite chat about Darcy Vescio in the pre-seed. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, they played pretty well, 69 points with 5 marks. So, yeah, it does look to be there. And, yeah, with these forwards, it's going to be just the case of, I guess, trying to find anyone who's not playing forward. So, yeah, I don't mind it. They've been in the comp for a long time. So, yeah, it can be probably one of those picks where, they can be trusted with the ball and spread and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't mind it. And someone I've considered.
Yeah, a bit like with Sinead Goldrick, it's one of those players that if they struggle early on, you can look to downgrade them to a rookie or go up to a premium, right? Because being at 583K, it's in that decent price range, where you can go up or down. So, yeah, don't mind it. I've definitely considered starting them in my team as well. Beautiful. Well, Mitch, mate, really liking the team, mate. It's looking very nice and solid. But I think we'll turn our attention because we have alluded to it a couple of times.
If you guys think it's crap, give me some feedback on YouTube. I can take it.
There might be people with pitchforks saying start Barrett off, and I'll start the rally. But I think that we've touched on a couple of times as well. But I don't think we chat about too much in preseason, Jaiden, is these double game weeks. So we've got from rounds 4 to round 7, where teams will play 2 games apiece. So I'll just go through for listeners for the teams that have got 2 games in the round. So in round 4, you've got Collingwood, West Coast, Brisbane, and the Bulldogs there all have 2 games. Round 5, you've got Richmond, Port Adelaide, Carlton, and North Melbourne. Round 6, you've got Geelong, Fremantle, Hawthorn, Gold Coast, Essendon, and Sydney. And then in round 7, the final one, you've got St Kilda, GWS, Adelaide, and Melbourne. So each round has got 4 teams on it, besides round 6, where you've got the extra 2 teams there on the double game weeks there. So, James, I guess talk to us about, and I guess for the new listeners that haven't sort of dealt with this yet, it's a bit like in the Fantasy Premier League, right? You get a player playing twice, you get double points, you look to captain them. So what sort of strategy are you looking at going into with these players on double game weeks?
Yeah, so it's almost like the complete opposite of how we play best 18 in the men's, because you're wanting to get as many as possible because you're not actually restricted by how many you can have. And yeah, it makes it pretty fun because you can really make the most of it. Like, so hard if you really want to. And that's pretty exciting, I guess, for people like us who are pretty heavily strategy in the game. So, yeah, you'll get the 2 games out of them as long as they play both. That will be a consideration because there are short turnarounds in these games that all condensed into 1 week. So they will be playing 2. So I would be a little bit careful with that, but I guess you can't really do anything about it, so don't lose sleep over it. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people pretty keen on Edmonds and Thomas for that early double game round. And yeah, I would be a little bit careful. You've got 3 trades a week, so you basically want to maximize how many points you're getting. So don't load up just with West Coast Collingwood players at the start, because you will get to round 4 and you might need to offload a lot of them. But yeah, I think it's pretty exciting for the game because instead of having like kind of a safety net from best 18, you've actually got so much room to explore and like get ahead or pick a week that you want to really target kind of a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, you can really have a crack because you're not going to be restricted. Like, I guess you're not going to be, for example, in best 18, if one of your premiums gets injured and then one of your rookies that you don't have goes really well and saves everyone, and then you might have a bunch of you might have a bunch of low players, they all get cut off, so you still have a good week, and then everyone else is annoyed at you because you had a good week. So with this, it's really exciting, I think, because you can really have a go at it.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of different strategies that, and like Mitch, obviously you were talking about, that's part of the reason that you're not starting Marinoff is being too expensive, and the fact that you can maximize these double game weeks there. So what are you sort of looking at in terms of your strategy with attacking these double game weeks?
This might be a really dumb question, but what's the lockout situation like? We got rolling lockout for these?
Rolling lockout, but the players that play 2 games get locked out in their first game. They'll get, so like, for example, round 4, Tuesday night, you've got Collingwood and West Coast. They'll be locked out, but you can change the rest of your team. It's just that those players in those teams get locked out in the first game.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's good to know. So yeah, in terms of like how it's affecting my team, I think I don't want to get too caught up in getting players that you wouldn't otherwise want in your side just because they've got the double week, because you got 3 trades, but like with the price movements happening so quick and so rapidly, and large movements in terms of cash, I think you're gonna want those 3 trades to make the moves that you're gonna want. But what I would be doing is just like how I would normally approach a buy round, is instead of trading people off their buy, like trading them into my team when they've had their buy, it's almost like you're trading players into your team before they have their double round. So like James has said, like that complete reverse. So using that as a way to target, okay, coming up to round 4, I want to have a look at Ali Anderson. I want to have a look at Charlotte Thomas and try and get maybe one of those girls into my team at that point, round 5. All right. If I don't have Monconti, all right, let's try and target her. That's that sort of a thing. So for me, someone who's not starting Marinoff, I'm looking at, I have to get her in by that sort of double week, so that I'm not the only person in the comp that's going against a double Marinoff captain avalanche coming my way. So it kind of gives you targets for certain players that you're going to want to get into your side at that point. And then once teams have had their double round, maybe it's okay to flick them off if it means you're getting someone who has that extra game coming up. So yeah, it's a weird kind of way, but it also feels somewhat familiar to, buy around planning in a way. But just the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Is there any players that, obviously we saw your team before, but is there any players that are either currently in your side or that you are considering that have got one of the first maybe 1 or 2 early double game weeks that you're like, I'm quite keen on them because they've got that early week and you might consider starting them if they're not already in your team?
Yeah, Geordie Allen is one of them. So they play that first game that Tuesday in round 4, especially because you're going to, someone like that, the price movement is also, again, I'm not sure, is it going to be similar to how it was in the men's fantasy when they had the double movement at the start? Like, are they going to get in these rounds where they have 2 games, are they going to get a double price movement? I don't know, Jaiden, if you know much more about that, but I'd imagine some of those more mid-price or cheaper players, it might be an advantage there. So she's someone I'd be considering. Charlotte Thomas, for that reason. And in the midfield, there's not too many people that I really like in the mids. Ali Anderson was the only one that, if she comes out at the start and plays well, I might be keen to jump on her pretty quick, but want to see a game or 2 at least.
Yeah. Well, there's a midfield that I've got that's got nearly double game week that I'm quite keen on that you haven't mentioned. But Jaiden, I just want to quickly go to you before we go to that pick. If people are sort of waiting there anticipating who's Bale's got, who's this unique player that he's got. So who are some players that you've considered with the early double game weeks, maybe purely for that reason?
Yeah, it is difficult because I've thought a lot about the fact that you only get 3 trades, and I'm probably thinking one of those is going to be potentially bench related or rookie related to try and get money. For example, if you're trying to get Marinoff in round, or let's say Goldsworthy in round 7, and you're wanting her in round 7, she's going to be probably, let's say, fairly expensive. You're going to need like a little bit of cash to get there. So I think one of the trades is probably cut off. So I don't want to go too hard because I'm really only thinking I've got 2 chances to get another score. Personally, I think I'm very keen to look at the rookies and lower price players for those rounds. Like, it's very easy for us to sit here and go, okay, yeah, I want Blackburn, I want Thomas, I want Edmonds, but the rookies will probably be, I think, way more important. And as Mitch just said about the price changes, like, you could get a lot of money very quickly off one player for that reason alone. I'm assuming it will be.
So I'd say, yeah, I was going to say, is it the double price moves, as Mitch was saying, like in the men's, where they get the sort of the 2 price moves is in the one?
Yeah, well, it just has to be. Because there's no other way for it to work in the rest of the season. Based on my findings from last year, which was very tricky because we had no information at all, so I was like doing it week by week. But it's a 3-game.
Sorry. I was just about to ask if they had the secret break even, but the break even's a secret anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's all a mystery.
Well, if you are keen for break evens, they're on my site right now, so they are there. But the pricing system, from what I can tell, and I'm fairly confident, it's a 3-game pricing system. So you only get 3 scores in the system. So when it comes to those rookie players, if you get the 2 scores out of them and they go really well, you can get a lot of money out of it. And personally, that's probably what I'm going to be trying to do. Look for fairly cheap players on the double, because you've got those 2 goes at a score instead of side swapping premiums. Because I think, we could see a rookie put out a 30, but then put out a 70 in the same round, and they end up getting 100 points out of it. I'm not really sure on that, but it's something to consider, because I think it's going to be a lot easier to get rookies in. Like, I'd love to plan and like, okay, I need Garner by this time. I need Marinoff by this time, or whoever. I've just got the list right here. But yeah, like, if you are only looking at the premiums, I think you're probably missing out on a bit of value.
Yeah. I will just say, you just want to be sure that they're best 21, because they, obviously, being rookies and cheaper price players, they're more on the fringes of the side. So you might trade them in expecting them to play the double games, but you only get 1 game out of them because they're dropped, let alone injured and condensed schedules and things like that. It's just like an extra possibility of them not playing 2 games. So whereas you hopefully don't have that risk with the premium. So just another thing to consider is just making sure that they're best 21.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one player I've sort of got my eye on in round 4 is, if Lauren Butler is obviously one that she's injured at the moment. We don't know sort of what time frame is. It was 2 to 4 weeks. It might have been a week or two ago when I saw that. So who knows if she starts the season or she comes back in like round 2 or 3, but she would be one that you could target in those early rounds. But I guess the player that sort of come into my calculations, with the early double game week, you did mention her name, Jaiden, there, but Ellie Blackburn is someone that's currently sitting as my M4. So a bit of a unique pick. Don't think too many coaches out there have currently got her. So she's currently selected by 6.59%. So not very much, a bit like the Prasparkas pick for Mitch there. But she's obviously got the early double, but I like her run. More so leading up to that. So she's got GWS in round 1, which we know is a good matchup. Port Adelaide in round 2, another decent matchup there. Then West Coast, which is also a good matchup. So 3 pretty good matchups there. Then she goes into Brisbane. Obviously, that's a bit tough. And then she's got Collingwood in a double game week. So I'm still looking at that going, well, she's got the double in round 4. The one player that I don't think I can go without in terms of premium, obviously we're talking about going for these cheaper price players and rookie players. The player that I don't think I can miss in round 5 is Jazz Garner, just because of how big a ceiling is. So my plan would be to go Ellie Blackburn in round 5 after her double to Jazz Garner, which is probably not going to cost too much money. Well, that's the hope, is that maybe Jazz Garner, Brisbane, maybe gets a tag, maybe she drops 100, 90, maybe a bit lower. Ellie Blackburn gets off to maybe 105 average over the first 3 weeks, has a double game week, and then I can look at potentially that. So, Jade, what are your thoughts on the Ellie Blackburn pick? Because I don't think I've heard too much discussion around her this preseason.
Yeah, solid. And yeah, the Dogs are a bit of an unknown in terms of where their points are going to be going. She's fairly safe bet. And yeah, the fixture's good. 3 positive matchups in a row. And the double game doesn't matter. You don't really have to worry about the matchups, I don't think. Because, yeah. And I do also really like the idea of starting players with the intention to trade, because I don't really understand people who are picking, let's say Charlie Thomas, for example. You're picking them and you're going, okay, well, she's got the double game early and that's why you need her and why you want to start with her. But if you're actually intending to hold her the whole time, it doesn't actually matter about the double game. So you could get ahead of it in round 4, but if you're not going to trade her out, it doesn't actually matter where the double game sits in that, because you're going to get a double game out of anyone you pick eventually.
Yeah, and I guess obviously if you start 1 or 2 players that, as you say, like that you're looking at that, and then you can always look at trade man. I looked at like her back half of the year as well. So from round 5 onwards, she didn't go below 90 in any game, and she played the Saints, who can be a bit trickier. She played the Crows, obviously tough match, and she played North in the final round. Granted, the 90s were against Adelaide and North, but she got a 133 against West Coast, who she plays in round 3, and obviously Giants and Port are decent matchups as well. So she's currently sitting there. I've tweaked the structure a little bit as well, so there might be some sort of movement and stuff in terms of moving. She'd be the one, I guess, the first player. If I need to restructure, she could be a player that gets moved. Yeah, that's sort of currently where I'm thinking with her. Mitch, were you going to say something as well? Don't you?
Yeah, I was just Jaiden got my wheels turning again. I could see
you thinking there.
Just like, because I've said that same thing in terms of everyone's going to have a double round or everyone's going to have a bye round in traditional men's fantasy, so it doesn't matter. I think the difference would be that after the double round, there wouldn't, until the all double rounds are gone, there wouldn't be a situation where you would trade in someone like Thomas, because you'd only be from that point trading in players that are going to have their double rounds to come. So if you want someone from those early double rounds, you'd probably be wanting to get them in before that one, because after they have had them, there's no point trading them in, because then they're playing 1 fewer games than everyone else who has yet to have theirs. So if it's easier just to start with those players at the beginning, I can understand that kind of a logic. But yeah, just kind of got my wheels turning in terms of, getting my brain wrapped around it in terms of how it also approach the buys as well. So yeah, just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, exactly. Just sort of one last thing I want to touch on, and then we'll sort of wrap up just with sort of closing thoughts and stuff ahead of the season. But I guess, Jaiden, the other thing that people have been, well, especially in Discord group that we're in as well, so chatting with a few people in there, is that structure is what a lot of people are looking at. So I've seen a lot of people are going to defenders priced over probably, I'd say 750. Some have got 3, but a lot of people got 2, going maybe 1 mid-pricer and 2 rookies. Then a lot of people are going like premium ruck there, and then a lot of people are going to the like Horan 2 good, and then maybe you've got a mid-pricer or a bit cheaper, and then you've got 2 rookies. But the one place I've seen differing structures is in the midfield. So a lot of people, obviously with the points being in the midfield, people are starting with 4 big midfielders, but I'm seeing a few structures out there that are starting with 3 because they're putting 2 rookies. So they've got a Sinead Goody and a Matea Breed or a Piper Window. Obviously had an ankle injury, but hopefully she's named and people are looking at playing her on field. There's a few options there playing there. So sort of what are your thoughts on sort of the different structures in terms of maybe what you're currently looking at or sort of what you've been considering with those?
Yeah, so based on last week, what I did have was 4 fairly expensive midfielders. The real alternative you have to the 2 rookies is picking someone in that mid-price range, which I personally don't mind because you do have a bit of flexibility with 3 trades in round 2. So if you've missed someone, then you've got a chance to get them. I haven't really considered starting 2 rookies in the midfield, just because I've talked about it a lot. If the gap between the best and the worst in a line isn't that big, then you don't really need to spend up there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking in the forward line. I mean, the gap's pretty big because 2 good is like so far ahead of everyone else. But yeah, in terms, I guess more like F5 to F20, like if you're considering that gap. So personally, I haven't considered the 2 rookies in the midfield. It is pretty tempting from a cash generation point of view, but I've really only ever had the 4 fairly big mids, and I've considered a couple of mid prices, but I'm not sure if it's exactly going to work out. I think maybe last year was a little bit better because we had Nan Scorwin, and she was like pretty obvious pick and the obvious role. I'm not completely sold on everyone else yet, but we'll see.
Goody's the one we're pretty much sold on, I think.
Yeah, so apart from that, there's a lot that could still change with the team lineups.
Yeah, and I guess it'd be easier if you've got 4 midfielders, whether it be a mid-price or premium, to go down to a rookie if they pop week 1 and they pop an 80. Like, let's say, for example, you don't start a Matea Breed for Hawthorn. There's been rumours with Lucy Wells that I think she escaped suspension. She was suspended, but she got off with that. So, like, if you didn't start her, but she popped an 80 round 1, she's going to obviously have good cash gen. And if you want to play her on field, that way you could then go a mid-pricer down to her, play her on field, and that's where you can get maybe a defender that went really well in week 1 that you don't have, or a forward, or if you went a mid-price ruck, you want to go straight back up to the top. There's obviously a few options there as well. But obviously you touched on a few mid-prices, and this will be the final point we do talk about, is there anyone that caught your eye in the practice games that maybe might not have been maybe considered per se before, or that is really come into your calculations? Because I've got probably one main name that I've looked at from the practice games. But anyone after seeing the scores that you've considered?
I suppose I've considered it, but I haven't thought of any player in particular. And it's just the situation at Freo. So there's definitely some room there.
The player I'm keen on, I reckon you're going to say.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like what did she score? Like the second highest score of the week.
And for those listening and watching along at home, we're talking about Ash McCarthy from Freo. I was about to say West Coast because she was at West Coast last year, but over at Freo we had no Bowers and no Stannett for the year. So sort of
132 and 15 tackles.
Yeah. So the worry is that you picked the wrong Freo player because they're all kind of about the same and around the same price. The reason I haven't gone there is from the practice game itself, and it was just like so wet. So I can't see her getting 15 tackles every week. I don't think Freo will be able to keep up in the midfield. And like, you're going to need a lot of tackles like that to do that well. So yeah, that's probably the one I've considered. There's like Dana East as well. But I just think it's a little bit too speculative at the moment with what they're going to do. And I'd be more than happy to, start with 4 fairly expensive mids and then, have a look. Because, I'm still not sure about Freo, unfortunately, despite the practice game.
Yeah, and you get that look, right? Like if she pops off for a good score, she might go up to like in the 900s, but you can always again downgrade your M4 to her, make some cash and upgrade that way. So it is probably better to have a look because it's a lot easier to downgrade and restructure in round 2 than have to try and find the cash somewhere and try and upgrade to where if you have a rookie, for example, or whatever. So yeah, no, good points there. Anyone else that you've sort of considered that had some good games, the practice game? Then I'll go to Mitch as well for any players as well.
I think Goldrick has spiked in popularity because of that. I think I didn't watch heaps of the practice games, but Serene Watson looked pretty good for St Kilda and quite cheap. So I do like that, and I think I'll probably start with her. But I'm doing some research at the moment into what happened in the Saints backline last year because there was no one that scored well. So I do like that type of analysis going, okay, who's the cheapest defender out of the most expensive? Like if you take the most expensive defender from every team, who's the cheapest? Because there's probably room in that defense to get some more value. So that situation is like if you look at all the rucks in the men's this year, like Cherry and Meek are the cheapest because they have no one else there. So there's that room. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with St Kilda, but I need to be sure she's not going to play key defense again.
Yeah, no, good points. Mitch, any players for you that sort of looking at the preseason scores and stuff that have maybe come into your calculations for your team?
The one player that I had in there for a little while, I actually had her at M5, and I had Goody off the field until I learned that was probably suicide, was Ellie McKenzie from Richmond. Maybe that's a bit of a Richmond bias, but yeah, from what I understand, she's a bit of a gun or a gun to be as a number 1 pick and very cheap. I'm pretty sure she only played 1 game last year. So obviously gets a big discount on that. So she hasn't had much of a go at the longer quarters as well as the other thing, like that untested potential in terms of, just a different length game, I think is interesting. But it just kind of comes down to me, especially in the midfield, being the mid-pricer, and this is the same for what I sort of try to do in the men's, is if I'm picking a mid-pricer, I much prefer to go for undervalued premiums, because if there's a chance that they turn into someone who's, someone I don't have to trade out with any urgency, I potentially could put a captaincy on them. I'd much prefer that to someone who's essentially just like a more expensive rookie that I'm still going to want to trade out at some point. And that's just much more difficult to do in the midfield. So, even if Ellie McKenzie goes 20, 30 points up, like she's still not going to be approaching those really top line midfielders. I'm still going to want to trade her out at some point. So, whereas if, Vesio in the forward line goes up 25 points, then she's a keeper. Like I'll just keep her for the rest of the year and she'll be close enough to those sort of top 5 players. So just from a structure point of view, I'd prefer much more to have those gambles in mid prices in the defense or the forward lines.
Yeah, and great point. And Jane, as you said before as well, the gap between, as you said, like besides too good, like in the forward line, there's not that much of a gap between even like F4 and 5 to like F20 or whatever. Like there's the minimal gap, and same with the defenders as well. So I guess, like in the midfield, if you start in McKenzie and she goes at like 70, 75, which is still like not a bad pick from where she's priced at, but you could be picking someone at 1.2, 1.3 mil that's maybe a little bit underpriced, like your Prosparkas or your Ali Andersons or your Too Goods or even a Georgie Prosparkas as well, where they could be going at 105, 110 for the first 3-4 weeks, and you sort of saving cash there, but also getting sort of equivalent points instead of getting a mid-price. And so, as you said, it's always good to watch these mid-price midfielders maybe week 1, and you can always jump on them a week after. So Yeah, cool. Alrighty. Well, that's probably gonna almost do us. So, sort of, Mitch, sort of in terms of like your team stuff, can you see it changing too much? Obviously, we've got a few days. Obviously, we're recording this on Monday night. This will obviously be on the Tuesday, so a few days to go. But is there sort of anything that you're still considering with your side? Any sort of late minute plans? What are you thinking as we approach round one?
It'll come down to the rookies and like those cash cows and who's going to be obviously names and things like that, because something that worked well for me in the men's this year is building from the bottom up. So I want to make sure that I've got all the best cash cows first and foremost. And then if that means that I need to, like if one of the cheaper ones that I was hoping to be there isn't named and I need to go a bit more expensive, I'll have sort of those backup plans where I can maybe save a bit of cost elsewhere. But fingers crossed it'll look something like this. And whether or not that's going to work out for me, we'll see. But yeah, no, excited to get into it. And yeah, a little bit of different spice this year. So see how it all goes.
Yeah, no, beautiful, mate. Jaiden, sort of any last minute thoughts with your own team? Have you made many changes from the team that that we did the review with last week?
I'll be fixing up my team and hopefully, hopefully not too many changes, but the lineups will be very important. And with also the rolling lockout, it's a little bit different because your trades get locked. You can't like reverse or edit. So that's something to keep in mind if you're a first time player. So your trades get locked, but in round one, that's fine. You don't have to worry about that. So yeah, just seeing how the weekend kind of plays out from a team's point of view. And yeah, I'm not really set on a team yet. So I might be too influenced by Mitch's team now that I've seen it. But yeah, we'll see how we go.
Yeah, please don't. I don't know what I'm doing. So,
just quickly, have you made too many changes sort of since the team that we did last week? Has there been a few, or is it still fairly similar?
Yeah, fairly similar. I did delete my whole team to make a tweet, but yeah, at the moment it's fairly similar. Kind of. I think I'm pretty keen to get Watson from St Kilda in, but yeah, I haven't fully researched that yet. So yeah, I'll figure that out, and yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. Fairly similar.
Yeah, and then from me as well, yeah, obviously getting my own team set ready to go. I'm still contemplating the red dot strategy, putting a red dot at R2 and getting a couple of looks at a captain, because that could be a way that if everyone's got like a Marinoff captain, for example, and obviously Mitch is sort of banking on the fact she's not going to go 120s, 130s every week. If she drops at 100 and everyone's got a captain, but I can VC someone and they get a 130, 140, that's something I'm still considering. So I'm not sure I doubt and Lily Pearce are going to make, and they'll still make cash, but I'm sort of weighing up, are they going to make enough cash where will it benefit me more to get the points on field and get these captains? Because I did it last year, right? For people that didn't know, I had Matilda Schultz on my bench looped, and I saw that she got, it would have been a fairly high score. I can't actually remember what she scored, but it was very good. And I remember I traded out, I believe I traded out Erin Hoare, or one of the rucks I started. So I think I was starting with 3 rucks. Can't actually remember the ruck, but trade them out. And then I had a red dot in Courtney Murphy for the whole year. So I was able to do that. So I'm just having a look. What did Matilda Schultz score last year? Because I'm very tempted to sort of recap that. So Matilda Schultz in round 1, yeah, she got a 76. I was pretty happy with that. So that's why I took that. So I'm still considering that. And structure as well is the other thing. I'm fairly set on the structure, but I've currently got Jess Allen in my ruck at the moment. I'm currently not going for the top priced ruck, or one of the top priced in like an Ali Morford or Alice Edmonds. So that's what I'm currently thinking. Did I hear someone was going to say something, Mitch?
I was just going to ask, who would your red dot ruck be? Do you have a team that plays late that you'd be happy to use?
I think I saw somewhere in our group chat that it would be, if I want to get the name correct. Or Jade, maybe you've got the name on there. I think someone in our group chat suggested if you're going to go red dot, you'd be going this player. I'm not sure if you know who that would be.
I don't remember. Yeah, I'll find that out. I might comment on this video. So if you scroll down,
yep,
you can find it. Well, after I figure it out.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, because I remember someone did say there was a player, but I just couldn't exactly remember who it was. But yeah, well, I'm sure we'll tweet that out at some point if you're looking for a red dot. But yeah, so boys, I reckon that'll do us for the final preseason episode ahead of the upcoming season. But Mitch, mate, glad to have you on board for the upcoming season to get your thoughts on throughout the year, mate. Where can the people find you on the socials and obviously the YouTube channel? Where can anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Ballboys Fantasy. Not too much content going on at the Ballboys AFL Fantasy podcast at the moment, but we just finished wrapping up our season review podcast. We went back and thought about some lessons and some learnings. So if you haven't, go ahead and check that one out, and we'll be back for 2025 on YouTube podcasts, wherever you get them. So if you haven't heard of us, put us on your little subscribe list and tune in for the preseason content next year.
Yeah, exactly. No, beautiful. Thanks, mate. And the other thing I was going to say as well, it's been a while since we recapped this, but mate, have you come round to the straws got 1 or 2 holes?
Oh, mate, I can't remember what I said, but
you said it's got. I'm pretty sure you said it's got 1, but everyone else said it's got. Hang on, no, you said it's got 2, but a lot of people say it's got 1 because you just say straight.
Yeah, I think I've come around to the 1. Yeah, it makes sense, but look, I'll fight for a little while there, but it was an uphill battle.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, even just go back and watch the preseason pods. There was obviously one with myself, and that was quite funny as well going through that. So, but actually, Jane, I'll get your thoughts. Straw 2 holes or 1.
Yeah, I thought 1 straight away, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I reckon, yeah, let's just go with 1. But
guess you're thinking
if it's got that little like bend in it, like you know how those straws that like have the right angle at the top, like does that mean that it's not perpendicular anymore? So parallel. I mean,
wait, you got me thinking. I might be back on the 2 again. Oh, you've restless.
Mitch, you got to do a TED talk on just TED talk. Straw 2 holes or 1. So,
if it's a paper straw, then it'll have like 6 holes in it by the time you finish.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
The ones at Hoyt's, you've always got to grab a couple of straws throughout the movie, especially if it's a long one as well. So, but anyway, we've sort of detracted from. But Jade, mate, thanks for jumping on once again, mate. Where can the people find you across socials and links to the website?
Yeah, statsbyjaiden.com.au. I've got an AFLW tab there at the moment. I've got the practice match stats from the article. Break evens are there, and also like a mini price prediction, like if they score like 50 or 100, what that would change. So that's pretty handy to have in mind if you're not familiar with how that kind of pricing works. And yeah, fixture, that's up there as well. So that's been referenced quite a lot of times. So yeah, I'll be updating all of that throughout the year.
Yep, beautiful. Make sure you go and follow across that, and links in description as well. The video and the podcast for the website. So if you guys want to get the link easy that way, then yeah, head to that as well. So and you can find me at BullsDT across the socials as well, and you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans on Twitter as well. We do have an open league as well for AFLW Fantasy this season as well, the AFLW Fantasy Fanatics League. So the code for that as well, you can sort of rewind and stuff like that. I can't put it on the screen. I don't know why I can't do that, but the code is A6PC45I2. That's the code there. So if you guys want to join that and see who the top AFLW Fantasy Fanatics is for that coming season, make sure you guys get around that as well. But we will be back on Friday afternoon / evening. So it depends where that you're living in Australia there ahead of the first game of the season, answering a heap more of your questions. So the game is at 7:15 Eastern. We'll be live. What's that? Probably from 5:30 to 6:30. Again, people about 45 minutes before that to get their team sorted. So we'll be live for about an hour or so there and answering a heap of your questions. So yeah, beautiful. Thanks everyone for tuning in across the preseason. We're looking forward to bringing you plenty more content throughout the upcoming AFLW fantasy season. And make sure you do like this video if you have enjoyed it and enjoyed the preseason. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're listening on the podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and review. That'd be very much appreciated. Make sure you click the follow button on there as well so you don't miss any of our upcoming content as well. Leave your comments below as well. Any questions you guys have, you can leave them there. Or if you would like to, you can ask me on Q at askmeonq, spelled QU.com /AFL Fantasy Fanatics. You can ask Mitch either AFLW Fantasy questions or any questions, as he said on the pod on Friday. You can ask him sort of just anything you want. And head over to askmeonq.com/ballboys to ask Mitch. Is that the right one, Mitch?
Yeah, that's the right one. But I wouldn't bother with any W questions. You'd be throwing your money away, I reckon.
That's right, mate. Got to support you and Luke, mate. You guys have done a great job this year over at Ball Boys. And, mate, as I said, looking forward to chatting through with you and Jaiden throughout the upcoming season. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll catch you guys on Friday afternoon. So thanks, everyone. See ya.